Welcome to another Garage Talk. We're out of the garage today. It's a little cold out, snowing, and I'm so excited to talk to my longtime friend and 303 ambassador, and I can't be more grateful to your support, Khem Suthiwan, and it's just a pleasure to have you here and actually be on the show.
It's a little weird being on the other side of the lens now.
Right?
Yeah, it's been
Get
a
all
while.
serious with hippie and...
I know, right? Serious with hippie, that's another show.
Right? Because we have too many other good stories. It's just funny to think about. I was swimming today thinking about this interview, and I'm like, man, we could talk about stupid things in Kona and Daytona and just
St. George.
St. George and here
Yeah.
and watching football in St. George. That was a pretty short, it was just a while ago.
Yeah.
That was super cool.
It was cool.
And just craziness in Kona and... but really, I wanted to share things that maybe I know and things I don't know about you with everybody else. And I know I talk to people and they say, "Gosh, she's everywhere. Does she work?"
Does she work?
You've heard that a million times.
Yes. Question of the century: does she work?
Right.
What does she do?
She's always in travel and she's going these crazy places. You did Kilamanjaro this year. You did Everest a couple of years ago, and you've just done all kinds of great trips. But let's let people maybe peek behind the curtain a little bit. Tell us all of the things you do. You brought a hat for everything that you do. I thought that might be a good way to demonstrate so many facets
Oh my gosh.
of triathlon and cycling that you are a part of.
Yes. So I guess we could start out with, yes, I do have a full-time job. Like a legit full-time W-2 paying job,
Right.
Working professional in the energy industry. I do have to travel for work, but it's never anywhere nice. I mean, the oil patch is not nice.
Farmington? Come on.
Farmington, New Mexico. Which, actually, you know what? That whole area, Farmington and Aztec, they have a pretty big gravel scene starting to grow out there.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting what happens over the next couple years. So that's what I do for my full-time work. That's how I fund all my fun.
Right.
But before, in the middle of all of this, yes, I do some work with 303 through you.
Right.
I've helped out with the website, helped out with the weekly spin, doing photos and interviews. Like, I remember my first ever big interview was with Mark Allen in Kona.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was back in 2016.
You're my kryptonite. You're the person that will walk up to anybody and get a selfie.
Like,
and
hey, how
I'm
are
a little
you?
more shy about it, actually.
Yeah, there's one selfie I couldn't believe I managed to get, and that was with the Prince of Bahrain.
Oh, right. That's right. I forget his DC-10 at the airport there.
No.
Just sitting there with all the... Oh, yeah, that was crazy.
That was crazy.
What other Kona moment really stands out in your mind?
Well, that one time that we were delayed at the airport
Oh, yeah.
until, 2 in the morning?
Oh, actually, it's more like 4.
4 in the morning. I managed to get us a rental car because there were no taxis or Ubers.
Right.
And we got to stay at the really nice Fairmount.
Yep.
And then, you end up staying an extra day.
I did.
Yeah, that was really, really nice.
Yeah.
Way to end a really long evening.
And, I mean, you've met some pretty amazing people there, right?
I have. Not just triathlete celebrities, but, Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah, I thought you mentioned him.
He's not like what he is on TV. I think that's more of a facade, but he's a very, very kind person.
Yeah.
Sean
Astin.
Sean Astin. I actually passed him in Kona when we were both racing.
Oh, really?
But I didn't see him because we were on the Queen K running and it was so dark out.
Oh.
The only way I knew that he was around was I had just passed an aid station, and not maybe 30 seconds later I hear the aid station yelling with their bullhorn, "It's Sean Astin!" And I was like, wait a second, I passed him and I didn't see him.
Yeah.
So some of those folks.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah, cool. So 303.
303.
What is next?
Oh, the Ironman Foundation.
Oh, yeah.
So the Ironman Foundation, I am an ambassador for them.
Right.
And I actually had somebody in the triathlon community ask me but you don't really do a lot of triathlons anymore. And I said, yeah, but that has nothing to do with supporting the sport of triathlon. You don't have to race.
Fair enough.
Or race a whole lot. So one of the pillars of the mission behind the USA Triathlon Foundation is to support those either wanting to do triathlon, especially those that don't have access to it, as well as supporting our Olympic athletes and hopefuls.
And you've met some really cool people because you went to Park City and you did that camp, and you've done other camps with them, and some of the Olympians were there, correct?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Joe Malloy is one of them that I've, gotten to know very well. at their college recruitment program training camp in Park City. Mary Kane, who is a professional runner, was there.
Right.
So that was really cool to see her. Like, they taught her how to clip in and out of her pedals.
Oh, really?
And I got to see that, which was,
Did you see her fall at all?
She didn't fall at all.
Oh,
the
that's
next
awesome.
day, she went out on a 50-mile bike ride right in the pack.
No kidding.
Yeah, very impressive.
And was that relationship started with your, and maybe you're going to get to this, but with Dave Duchesne at Ironman Foundation? Is that how it all started?
That's another hat.
Yeah.
So yes, back in 2013, when the Ironman Foundation ambassador team was in its inaugural year, David Duchesne was the executive director for them up until, I'm trying to remember, like 2018 maybe?
Yeah.
So yes, I was on their ambassador team since then. And then, of course, naturally, since he went over to the USA Triathlon Foundation, I kind of followed him over there.
Right.
So I help out with a lot of their projects if they need photographers at events and
Yeah,
things.
you've really gotten into photography.
Yes, I have. And that actually grew out of my trip to Mount Everest.
Oh, that's
Base
where
camp.
I mean, you were kind of dabbling before that.
Not really. That was when I bought my first DSLR camera.
Was it that long ago?
That was 2017.
Oh, I was thinking it was, okay. That
Because
makes sense.
we got to base camp on New Year's Eve.
Okay.
And the reason why I bought the camera was, your phone can only go so far.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to go all that way,
Right.
I want some good pictures, right?
Yeah.
And so I bought a DSLR camera, and then I started to kind of bring it out at races, and I'm like, all right,
Yeah, you've gotten really good.
let's see what I can do with this. And then I upgraded the camera body, got some lenses, and
Yeah.
playing around. And I've learned by the best, like Kenny Withrow, Ryan Muncie,
Right.
Reed,
Yeah.
who else? Terry, like all those guys. Whenever I see them out shooting at races, I look at their work.
Right.
And I see, this is how they frame their shot, or this.
And they're all so different.
They're so different.
Yeah.
And it's great learning from them and their work.
That's cool. All right, so next hat. What do we got? Oh, Newton. Oh,
Newton.
I forget about all these things.
I know. So Newton has been a longtime sponsor of various Dave Duchesne's, endeavors. So he was a sponsor for our original Kokua Ironman Foundation team.
Okay.
And then, of course, now he's a sponsor for, they're a sponsor for USA Triathlon Foundation. But yeah, I'm also a Newton Running ambassador. I've been a Newton Running wearer since 2009.
Okay.
So I don't jump the bandwagon. I see a lot of triathletes out there, Ironman's sponsoring this brand this year. They're sponsoring this brand 2 years later, and they just keep switching and switching. And
you did get married in Newton shoes.
I did.
That was pretty cool, though,
They were
right?
custom shoes too.
Wasn't that amazing?
It was cool. Like they're my family.
Yeah, yeah.
Wendy Lee, Jerry Lee, Donna Lee.
Yeah.
They had this awesome Saint Bernard dog named Isaac who has since passed away. But
Oh, shoot.
yeah,
So you know them well.
I know them very well.
Yeah.
And Kenny used to work there as well.
I know. Kenny,
Don Reichelt used to work there.
Oh, Diane, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, Don, yeah. And Johannes Schmidt, yeah. There's a lot of disciples.
Yes, yes. So I truly believe in, running with my Newtons. That's all I ever wear now.
And they're Colorado.
They're Colorado. They're based in Boulder.
Yep. All right, what do we got next?
Malhai Multisport.
Oh, yes.
So I'm a multi-sport coach. I do coach triathletes. I coach cyclists. I coach runners. My coaching career started with Team and Training with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society.
Yep.
So I got involved with them starting in 2006 as a marathon runner. And then after a couple seasons, they asked me to come coach. So I was coaching all these people that were coming off the couch, wanting to do something bigger than themselves, raising money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
Was there a personal connection to leukemia?
Luckily, no.
Okay.
But as I met more people, like my really good friend, John Ruman, who is the captain of Team Survivor.
Right.
We do our cycling event every single year in Lake Tahoe. He has a chronic form of leukemia.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there's no cure. Luckily, he's extremely healthy. His white blood cell count is a lot higher than most of us because of it.
So just to watch it.
He has to watch it, but he manages it. I will say there are other people that aren't as lucky, so that's why we just continue to, raise the money for research. We actually have one of our teammates, his name is Dr. James DeGregory,
Okay.
and he is a researcher over at University of Colorado Hospital, and he is funded by a grant from the Leukemia Lymphoma Society.
Okay.
And we've been on lab tours and everything, so we know where the money's going. It's not going to buy a pink blender. It's not going to pay for, executives and their high salaries and private jets. So it's
making a difference.
It's making a huge difference. So that's why we continue to do it.
That's awesome.
But through team and training is how I got into triathlon.
Oh.
So a couple of the coaches, Mary Carey, Charlie Perez,
yeah.
they're like, you need to come over to the dark side.
Dark side from where?
Marathon to triathlon.
Oh.
So triathlon was the dark side.
Oh, that's funny.
And I said, I don't know how to swim. Like, I know how to swim, like jump in the pool and,
Yeah.
But laps, no.
How many marathons had you done before you did a triathlon?
7.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you'd done that many marathons.
7 standalones, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. What was your favorite?
Dublin, probably.
Dublin?
Ireland.
See, this craziness of your travel doing stuff started a long time ago.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Dublin, Ireland, Anchorage, Alaska.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Anchorage.
Uh-huh.
But
We
that
saw
was-
moose. We
but
saw
that was
moose
cool.
on the run, yeah.
Was it hilly?
A little bit,
Yeah.
but it was one of my faster ones.
Does that mean you're going to do something crazy like the Norseman?
No. I have no desire to do Norseman. No. Mm-mm.
So that's cool. I didn't realize you did all those marathons, and that's how you started.
Yes. Kind of got bored with marathons, so
Yeah.
naturally, transitioned
Yeah.
over to triathlon.
Right.
So yes, I had to learn how to swim laps. I had to learn how to actually ride a bike other than just riding to the store.
Okay.
Yeah, but the running was there. So it was...
That's a good one to know.
It's a great one to know. Like, I will tell people that was my strength, even in triathlon. Like, I would pick people off during races. Like, I would look to see where I would place coming out of the water, coming off the bike, but then I would gain, like, all these spots on the run.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So then once
That's why you caught Sean Astin at the Leahy Drive.
Yeah.
Or Queen K or wherever you
Yeah, and just, from the team and training teammates, so when I raced Kona, it was for charity. It was for the Leukemia Lymphoma
Right.
Society, and I had to raise $50,000 for my charity slot. We had 5 athletes that did the same thing, and they were all guys. I was the only girl. And I looked at all of our splits, just kind of out of curiosity.
Right.
I had the fastest run split out of all of them.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yeah.
I think that's where you and I really kind of connected, was that year when you were doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that was really because Dana had talked to you about being involved with 303, but you and I really hadn't talked, and then I think that really was where I'm sure we met before that, but I
Probably.
I remember more conversation started from there for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so you got your Mile High Multisport,
So,
coaching,
yes.
training, team
training. So I got into triathlon through that, and then eventually I started coaching their triathlon team, and then got hooked up with Pete Alfino with Mile High Multisport, and started coaching with them, and still do.
That's awesome.
All right, what else?
You got looks like an RMTC
I got
hat.
an RMTC hat. So the current RMTC folks probably don't ever see me because I just don't have the time to go, even though I still get their emails. I'm still a paid member, and I will still support them even if I don't show up.
Right.
But I was a board member at one time and was pretty involved with the group, and they were a big part of my life for a very long time.
A lot of good people there.
A lot of great people, yes.
Shout out to another Garage Talk participant, Todd Lytle.
Yes, I'm so thrilled for him to race Kona this year.
Yeah, I know.
Finally.
Right, finally.
Finally. Like,
Jeez.
I remember my first Ironman, it was 2012 back in Penticton at Ironman Canada. The 30th anniversary when they stopped it they had a hiatus, right?
Yep.
And Todd Lytle was there. Gosh, there was like...
Todd was in Penticton?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I was there.
Yeah, there was like
That's interesting.
tons of people there from RMTC and then from Colorado.
Huh.
I mean, even Charlie went out there, just,
Yeah.
packed up his bike and he rode around the course cheering us on. It was
That was
great.
before I was really totally involved. I didn't know anybody really.
Yeah.
Except a few people. That's funny. Ha, small world.
Small world.
And then Kansas.
Ah.
You forgot your Tribella hat.
Oh, I don't have a Tribella hat.
So talk about Tribella.
So
real quick.
Tribella has been my shop since 2011 and 12.
Mm-hmm.
They opened up in 2011.
They've been around.
March 11, 2011. So they're coming up on their 11th anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I need to talk to James.
I know. But he built me my first wheel set. I had this Velt bicycle. It was a B16 with 650 wheels.
Oh yeah.
And I wanted a power meter. And at the time, like, the most affordable one was the hub.
Yep.
So I needed a 650 zips with a power
There's
meter
like 2 of them
hub.
in the United States.
I
right?
know. So he built it for me, and we've been family ever since. And
That's awesome.
I'm helping them out with stuff
You
constantly.
do newsletter and some creative stuff for him, right?
Newsletter, update his website, do some of his photography too when he needs photos of things.
And you don't even, before we get to Kansas, because I
Sure.
want to get to Kansas,
Yep.
because I do want to kind of talk about some of your background, but you're also on a cycling team.
I am. Palmares.
Yeah.
Palmares. Well, we're
It's
now stem
I was going
siders.
to say,
I
that's
need
why I didn't
need to
say
practice.
it.
I need to practice.
I couldn't
yes.
remember exactly, so I'm like,
We are now stem siders racing.
right, formerly Palmares.
Palmares.
So
yeah.
because you race some crits, you race some cross, any road races?
Yeah, I do some road races.
Not
I
a
do
lot of
some
them to
TTs.
choose from these days. Yeah.
Well, it's hard because they're every weekend.
Yeah, right.
And so I have a really nice problem. Every weekend it's like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. What am I going to do this weekend?
Right.
And it makes it tougher when, say, like now, it's ski season.
Right.
And I have friends that want to ride. And I'm like, well, there's 8 inches.
It's hard to look outside and say, yeah, I really want to go get cold.
I
right?
know.
Yeah,
Even though this is like cyclocross type weather.
True.
Right?
True. Okay, so clearly you have a lot of involvement and still do with organizations, some past, some present. But let's roll back the years a little bit. And growing up in Kansas, you go to Jayhawk country, you went to University of Kansas, which I know you're quite proud of. But talk about your childhood a little bit. Talk about I know you were a gymnast, you were athletic, probably didn't even know what a triathlon was.
I'd heard of Iron Kids with the bread.
Oh, right.
That was about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as a kid, so I was born in New York City. My
Oh.
parents immigrated from Thailand separately. They actually met each other in New York.
Okay.
That's where they were married. That's where I was born. My parents are, did I say they were from Thailand? I forget. But they're, the Thai community in New York City is pretty close-knit. And one of my dad's buddies got a job at Boeing in Wichita.
Ah, okay.
And on a trip back from Thailand, my dad decided to stop off in Wichita and visit, and he kind of liked it. Because at the time it was, up and coming, a lot of young families, a lot of, good paying jobs, low cost of living. So he interviewed with Cessna,
Oh, yeah.
got a job there,
Okay.
went back to New York, and he told my mom, hey, we're moving to New York, and she just, I think she was at a loss for words. Because she's been, never had to drive a car anywhere, even when she lived in Thailand. It was
Yeah.
all public transportation.
Yeah.
So now she's in the middle of the Midwest with the baby.
Right.
So we moved to Wichita in 1979.
Okay.
So that's where I was
Right.
basically grew up,
Yeah.
went to high school there, graduated. Growing up, so I do have a younger brother who's about 3 years younger. My dad is where I get a lot of my athleticism from. I mean, my mother too.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad was very much like, he would try anything once.
Mm.
And there was a Citizens Fun Run that would kick off our 2-week Wichita River Festival. So
Okay.
the Arkansas River, I say Arkansas because us Wichitans call it Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Not Arkansas.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Really?
As long as it's in Kansas, we call it Arkansas.
Never heard that before.
So yeah, we have the Wichita River Festival.
Okay.
It's a 2-week, festival of just all sorts of stuff going on downtown, down by the river. But they kick it off with the Wichita River Run.
Okay.
And they always have the 2-miler and the 10K Citizens Run. So our family would always sign up and do the 2-miler. And I didn't even know, but I would try to PR every single year and didn't even know what a PR was. And I remember asking my dad once, I said, how come we never run the 10K? He's like, oh, no, it's too long. People throw up and, they pass out. So I just never questioned it
Yeah.
until later. Much, much later, when I started getting into running when I moved here to Colorado.
But I know you've told me you really love gymnastics and you had a bad injury.
Mm.
Like, you really hurt your neck, correct?
Yeah, I dislocated my C4 and 5 vertebrae, so I had to have emergency surgery, 8-hour surgery.
Wow.
I have, a couple screws and plates that fuse my vertebrae together. I'm lucky to be walking right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I had to choose something else to do.
Yeah, because would you call that sort of one of those moments in your life that maybe changed your life? You didn't know it would change it, but did it?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because, and then you went to KU.
Went to KU.
And were you fully recovered when you went to KU?
It happened my first semester.
At KU?
Yeah.
Wait, were you doing gymnastics at KU?
I was doing like intramural gymnastics.
Oh.
They didn't have a gymnastics team, nor was I good enough to be like a Division I gymnast.
But you were still really interested in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course, yeah. I mean, I was a cheerleader in high school, and
I was just going to ask you.
kind of wanted to keep it going.
Yeah.
Like, I did all those partner stunts that you see, that college kids do, yeah.
Did that ever scare you?
I loved it. Like, I could never understand why kids would do drugs, because that was my high.
Mm.
Like, I enjoyed that, like, being in front of a crowd, performing.
Really?
I enjoyed that more than anything.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you want to try that at KU as a cheerleader?
I did, but I just wasn't good enough. I had a really late start.
Okay.
Just because, my parents they were busy working, and they didn't have time to shuttle us around. And if I did any sports, it was because I wanted to. Mm. Like, I begged my parents to let me have a part-time job in high school, and I used that money to pay for my gymnastics lessons.
Oh, okay. So you really loved it.
Yeah.
So that must have been hard to kind of lose that dream.
Yes and no.
I mean, or the ability to do it, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
By then you weren't going to the Olympics in your mind, I'm sure, obviously.
No.
But you still like doing it.
I still love doing it.
So how did you transition into something else?
At the time, I didn't know what to do, to be honest, but I didn't really... I guess I didn't put a whole lot of thought to it. It wasn't like my post-Kona depressions,
Yeah. You were just at college doing things.
I was just college doing things. I had my friends, I'd go to, to the gym and work out. I would run on the treadmill for a couple miles sort of thing. But it wasn't like, oh my God, I've lost my identity. Right. Right? Like,
and when you were in Kansas, if I'm not mistaken, you really were thinking about being a doctor.
I did. I was pre-med. My degree's in microbiology.
Yeah. Yeah, you're no dummy.
No. No.
Not that I'm serious that you did, but I mean, you really are in the science of the world. You do that somewhat now too, but why didn't you go to med school?
I was so burnt out.
Were you?
I just wanted to live life. And so what's funny is, once I graduated from KU, I found a job in Colorado, working IT, which is weird because I don't have any background in IT, but they were willing to train me, and it was a really small, family-owned company, which is how I got out here. And then, the dot-com boom busted, and I ended up losing my job. So I just worked, retail jobs and got into finance. I did, go back at least twice thinking I might do med school again, would go back, take my prereqs, and then I'd, put a halt on it. And then I went back and got my master's, so I had my master's in business. Went back again, a couple years later, did my prereqs, was actually close to pulling the trigger. I mean, I had my recommendation letters, I had my MCAT scores.
When would that have been?
2012.
Not too long ago.
No. And no, it was 2011, and the thing that stood in my way was Ironman.
I was going to say, because Canada was 12.
Yeah. So I was
So it was Ironman or doctor?
Literally, I was sitting in my biochemistry class with my laptop, with the Ironman Canada registration page up, with my credit card, and I had one of my classmates sit next to me, and she was getting nervous where she was like...
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I hit submit, and I'm like, okay, that's it.
Never look back.
Never look back.
Huh. Do you regret that ever?
No.
Yeah.
No, because the life I've had since then,
yeah.
Which is really interesting. Like, I remember driving to the airport to go to Penticton, and I just started crying.
Yeah.
I started crying with the thought of my life is never going to be the same when I come home. But I had no idea what that meant.
So you really did have that moment.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think intrinsically made you push the button to Penticton?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, just...
Why that adventure, not this adventure?
I don't know. I don't know. I think a lot of it is I like to suffer physically, I guess.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see how far I could push myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are really interesting moments, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you could only harness that, most people, it's hard to always say when you do those things. I've had a couple of those too, and you're like, I'm not really sure. It's just a gut feel.
Yeah,
right?
like everybody has their reasons, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's I want to honor somebody or, want to pick themselves up because, their confidence is low or whatever. For me, it was just more like, nah, I'd rather, choose your own adventure book. I'd rather go this way rather than this way. And I've had a lot of people in my life that have gone on into medicine that have told me, yeah, you made the right decision, because if they had to do it again, they wouldn't have picked that route.
Well, and clearly you really jumped in. I mean, you not only, we saw all of the hats. It wasn't like you just did a couple races and then just kept doing. I mean, you really said, this is a life I want to lead. I want to be involved. You started coaching, you started being with the foundation, raising money, kind of sticking your neck out. You really embraced it as your life.
Yeah.
I mean, that takes a lot of courage, don't you think? I mean, you probably forego things that you probably wouldn't have otherwise.
Probably. I think that stems a lot from my parents and my upbringing. I mean, both my parents, came from, like, here in America, when you're poor, you still have options. You still have resources. In Thailand, you don't have very much unless you have family to lean on. And both my parents came from very poor families. We're talking no running water. Like, water's collected in an urn.
Yeah.
Rainwater, and that's how you shower. That's how you wash your dishes. You do your laundry down by the river by hand. One of my cousins told me a story about, she's my uncle, her father, has told her stories of how my mother used to, study by candlelight at night.
So that was really inspiring to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when my mother came here to the United States, she had to learn English. She had a nursing degree from Thailand.
What brought her here?
They were giving out visas for nurses, and she wanted a different life. She wanted to see if, something different, and she had a couple friends that were here. And
so she's sitting in this room with us.
She's sitting in this room.
Do you think she would be surprised to hear some of this?
I don't know. But I just recently found out, like with my father, passing last month, all these stories of my parents coming out. And, I never knew this, but she told me when she first came to the United States, she stayed with a friend of hers, a friend of a friend of hers for a couple months until she was, on her feet.
Yeah.
Lived at the YWCA for 8 months? Yeah, 8 months.
Yeah.
In New York.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then finally, her and a friend of hers who also worked at the same hospital, once she passed her boards, so she had to take, English classes, English as a second language with an instructor from Puerto Rico, and here she is from Thailand, learning English,
right.
having to, pass her boards, her nursing boards. But when she started working at the hospital full time, they both lived in, I guess the hospital at the time had housing. For their employees, like they paid, subsidized rent, but yeah.
So do you think that overlaying sort of pull themselves up by their bootstraps, literally, how much of that is intrinsic to you, but how much is it just maybe who you are? I mean, is it a learned thing or is it a nature thing?
I think both.
Yeah.
Because they bestowed that on me.
Yeah.
I learned it from them.
Yeah.
I
mean, you clearly work super hard. I see it. You work harder than I do.
Despite what people think.
No, I see it firsthand. But you work hard at other things too. You work hard at sports. You work hard at friends. You always take somebody out to dinner every month, and you really foster relationships. And it's not phony. It's totally genuine, which I think is really incredible, and quite inspiring. And I just kind of wonder where that comes from, and it's obviously some combination of your upbringing, but there has to be something in you too that is just constantly driven. I mean, I'd like to kind of hear how maybe that lifestyle, the Ironman lifestyle, but you also, in my mind, have a bigger lifestyle, which is curiosity and travel and adventure. I mean, last year I think was just a record year of travel for you. It seemed like every weekend, and people were like, she's where? Seychelles Islands? Wait, she's in
Maldives?
Yeah, Maldives, I'm sorry. Maldives, and then over here in Mexico. And I mean, it was incredible how much travel. Where does that come from?
My dad.
Yeah?
Yeah, like I didn't even know this. Another story that popped up is my dad, to a fault, like he loved to travel. And even though he was poor, he would go see places even if they were local, even if it got him in trouble.
Yeah.
He made it happen. And so I guess I'm very much the same way. Like if I'm going to do something, like I do it. I'm not a whole lot of talk.
No, you're not.
I just do it. Like when I get people that ask me all the time, I want to go on an adventure with you. I'm like, well, let's go. Let's book it. And they're like,
How much?
I'm like,
When?
okay, I've already booked it. I'll see you later.
Right.
Yeah, like I book every trip, even if people say they're going to come with me, I book every trip with the intention of I'll be by myself. And it's totally fine. I've met some of the most amazing people traveling by myself that have become travel companions for me.
Yeah.
As well.
What are the guys that...
My diving buddy Scott.
Yeah.
Yes, we met in Key Largo. Okay. I was actually diving down there with my buddy Greg, who lives here in Colorado, who's on our Team Survivor group. And Greg gets like a dive in once every 18 months, and I got my advanced open water, and so the first day diving with him, I was like, yeah, I need to do something a little more interesting. So I signed up for the shipwreck dive the next day, which you had to have your open water cert because it was, I think our depth was like 120 feet for that dive.
Right.
So I was buddied up with Scott, and Scott and I have kept in touch ever since. We've gone to Belize. We've gone to, Cozumel. We're planning another...
Well, you just did what? Down there after you did Kilamanjaro, you went diving in...
Tanzania, or Zanzibar.
Zanzibar, oh, okay.
Yeah, that was on my own. But I met, people there, too. Yeah.
So what would you... the classic question, what was your favorite dive? That's a really not very easy... I don't even think that's a fair question, but what would you say is your most maybe surprising dive or most interesting dive that you're like, oh, wow, I didn't expect this?
Wow, I don't know. Every dive area is so different.
Yeah.
I do enjoy diving in the Indian Ocean more.
Okay.
Because the diversity.
What? It's more diverse?
It's more diverse. And if you get to areas that don't allow commercial fishing, the marine wildlife is amazing. I mean, like the Maldives.
Is that more of a soft coral or a hard coral?
Mix.
Okay.
Mix.
Because I know in Fiji I've been is more of a soft coral.
Yeah.
And in Mexico and the Caribbean is more of a hard coral.
Hard coral, yes.
Different.
Different.
Big time different.
Yeah, very, very different. Requires different skills, a lot of drift diving over in Cozumel.
And you do nitrox, right?
I do nitrox.
Is any of that intimidating when you get to the deep water stuff or the nitrox, or does it ever get you a little...
Nitrox, no. Nitrox is actually, there's really no difference in the way you dive other than you can't go too deep. Because then you'll end up with oxygen poisoning. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it just prolongs your depth time, and it shortens up your surface interval if you need to, and you're less tired.
Got it.
So that's the biggest thing for nitrox, especially if you're doing repeated dives, consecutive dives. Yeah. Like any new diver, I say, the next thing you should do is get your nitrox. Because a lot of it is just learning the theory behind why you use nitrox. And
gotcha.
Yeah.
So you like under the ocean, you like way above the ocean because you've been to base camp at Everest, which you said was probably one of the hardest things you've ever done. Yeah. Right? Including the Ironmans. And we can talk about that for a second. You did Kilamanjaro. Uh-huh. Is there other mountains you want to scale? Oh,
yeah.
Like what?
The limiting factor is money and time.
What would be the next on your list, do you think?
In the progression of things, probably Aconcagua.
Down in Chile?
That Chile, yeah. Yeah, which is is one of the 7 summits.
Right.
Highest summit in South America.
I mean, do you aspire to be a Himalayan type climber, do anything quite that robust?
If I won the lottery, yeah, I'm Splitsville.
You really like that. I mean, there's a lot of danger in that, obviously. But that's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. Like I said, if I had $20 million in my pocket, I'm gonna quit my job and I'm gonna work on a plan to get myself to the top of Everest.
That would be your ultimate goal.
That would be my ultimate goal. Yeah. Outside of going into space, right? I mean, come on, that's pretty cool too. But that's a whole.
But seriously, that would be. Here's a bucket of money. What's your number one thing? That would be it. Wow, I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. Yeah. It's about, how much does it cost, to get to Everest? It's $100,000 at least? About 80 to 100. Yeah. And you're talking, just that endeavor alone, we're talking like 3 to 4 months up there. Right. Yeah. So that's not even leading up to all the training and, learning the mountaineering skills, which I do not have. So I fully respect what they do. That is a big deal. Right? Like, I hate to say it, Ironman's notorious for, I'm just going to put a credit card down and I'm going to race whether I know how to or not. Right.
Everest is a totally different story, but it's starting to get there. You know, I've seen a lot of chatter on social media about that. Like, you're getting a lot of these folks that are the 1%ers and they want to do Everest.
But they've kind of cut back on that, haven't they?
They're trying to.
Because there's some danger in some of the things that happened a few years ago.
There's always inherent danger to everything that I do. You know, like, I talk to a lot of people that are very risk averse.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, I would never do that. I'm like, well, that's you. This is me.
Yeah.
You know, we take an inherent risk when we go outside and get in the car.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's like, with everything, I guess that's, you know, when you were talking about how I throw myself into stuff, that's probably why. I want to minimize those risks as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be that person that ends up on the news.
So what's greater, winning Kona or climbing Everest? What's a greater accomplishment?
Oh, man. Kona was awesome. I'm not going to lie. It was pretty awesome. But Everest.
But to win it. Like what?
To win it?
To win Kona versus climbing Everest. Pretty much, I would say the odds of both are pretty incredibly hard. Who would you look at in more awe? A person who won Everest or climbed Everest or won Kona?
A person who climbed Everest.
Yeah.
Because you cheat death.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Their finishing percentage is, I don't know, fairly low.
Right.
You know, I think it's 40 to 50%, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe?
and there is a pretty decent death rate.
Yeah.
Like, if you had that death rate, you would never get on an airplane.
Yeah, and if you're winning Kona, you're winning money. You're getting bonuses from sponsors.
But it's hard.
It's hard.
The odds of winning Kona are extremely
It's a hard
small.
way to live.
Yeah.
But you're constantly training for it in that, you know.
Yeah. But Everest, you could argue the same.
Yeah.
To like really
But
climb
even Everest, like, some of your training could cause you to die.
Right.
You know, you
Right.
do your training climbs.
So how about yourself? If you applying relativity, like when you were 6 you did this, or when you're 40 you did that, or 35, what do you think is your greatest accomplishment?
Wow.
What are you most proud of? When you're in Thailand and people that don't know you, maybe all, distant cousins, and they're just gathered around, and somehow it comes up and there's like, Kim, what's the coolest thing you've ever done? Hardest thing, greatest accomplishment?
Well, see, those are all different things.
They are.
Coolest, hardest.
Oh, yeah, go with it. Coolest.
You know?
What do you think the coolest is?
Gosh, man, I don't know. It depends on your audience, right?
Maybe.
I mean, I go
Your
home,
audience.
I go back home to Wichita. Coolest thing I've ever done to them is probably finishing Ironman Kona.
Okay.
I go up to my friends on Boulder. Oh yeah, I've done it 5 times in a row.
Right.
Big deal, right?
Yeah.
So it depends on.
What's your answer in Boulder?
It's hard because, I mean, I can throw a stone and there's 5 people that have done Kilamanjaro or base camp.
How about just coolest to you?
Coolest to me.
If you were talking to yourself, what do you think the coolest thing?
Not get arrested? I don't know.
Not get arrested.
Gosh. Coolest thing. I don't know. I've done a lot of cool things.
You have done a lot of cool things.
Yeah.
Maybe there's not an answer.
Maybe not.
Is there something you've done that you're surprised you finished? That you're like, I didn't really think I was going to do that.
Yeah, Ironman Lake Tahoe.
Oh, right.
The first year.
Was that the icy cold one?
Yes.
Yeah.
When we had the really, really hard bike course.
Yep.
Yeah, the years after that, I'm like, you did? Yeah, no, that wasn't, no.
But the Tahoe one. Matt, you've done 4?
I've done 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Huh. Well, I had a bunch of other questions, but we've kind of, I think, gotten through most of them. I'm kind of curious, though, you have Thai folks, ties to Thailand. Who's your hero? Who would you say is a hero?
My mom.
Your mom. Uh-oh. Your mom's your hero. Why is that?
She's been through so much.
Hmm.
And she's so strong. And
Good.
she tries to be strong for the rest of us. Every single day.
Yeah. Because your dad had just passed,
Mm-hmm.
and you were just there.
Yeah. And
What-
he was the same way. Like, he might have not been as strong as my mother, but he never wanted anything for himself.
Hmm.
He was constantly giving himself to everybody. His friends, his family, his community.
How would you tell other people when they're thinking about people in their lives to openly look at of achievements of people in maybe a different way than who was the fastest, who's the strongest. How would you recommend they maybe look through life a little bit differently?
Just be grateful for what you have, because not everybody is that blessed, and even those that aren't that blessed can find something.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing why I love traveling so much and all my adventures is seeing how other people live and people that don't have as much as we do, and gosh, they're so happy. Like I will never forget being in Namche Bazaar, which is, one of the stops along the trek up to base camp in Nepal. And these two kids, like, they had this, I don't know, like sheet plywood, and they carved paddles out of them. And they were just hitting this ball back and forth.
Oh, really?
Happier than happy can be.
Right.
I come back here, I hear kids fighting about iPads and their Xboxes, and I'm just like, you bunch of assholes,
Yeah.
I'm like, really?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, like, you down to the core. It's like, gosh, why can't you just be happy with what you have?
I mean, isn't that the beauty of travel, is to really add perspective to our
And
lives?
I do, like, when I go to those countries, I always like to do research on, what's the average, living wage of somebody living there, and it is ridiculously low.
Right.
And here we are.
Right.
Right?
Well, what I love about traveling with you is there's a resourcefulness about you, but is your food. You know how to find good food cheap.
Thai folk, we know how to find food. And I will say, like, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother ruined me. So she lived with us growing up.
Yeah.
She basically helped raise my brother and I both, because both my parents worked full time. But she made everything from scratch.
Yeah.
Right down to her curry paste and her coconut milk. She didn't buy it out of a can. She made it herself. And so now when friends ask me, oh, what's your favorite Thai restaurant? I'm like, and I'll go eat Thai restaurants here if people want to go. And everybody's like, oh my God, that is so good. I'm like, yeah. It's all right.
But no, you always figure out the LNH or whatever.
And I love trying different food.
Yeah.
Like one of the best experiences in Nepal was one of our guides had us over at his home. He, when we were done, he's like, I want to have you at my home. I want my wife to cook you traditional dal bhat, which dal bhat is kind of like a a la carte little tray that you just eat all these little things from.
Right.
And when we showed up, their home was a room. So it was like this multi-family building.
Okay.
Each family occupied a room. That's where they ate, sleep, everything. They had a communal kitchen and a communal bathroom.
Okay.
Which the bathroom was literally Harry Potter's closet underneath the stairs with a hole, like a drop toilet.
Wow.
And they were just so happy that they could share their home with us. And this meal that was amazing.
Right.
And I will never forget it.
No Viking stove, no fancy cookware.
No.
It's just pretty basic, right?
No KitchenAid, no.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's been wonderful to get to know you better. Thank you for being vulnerable a little bit and sharing some things, and it's just been fun chatting, and thanks to your mom for being here. And we wanted to get her, no, not really, but she's
shy.
It was probably fun for her to hear some of this too. But thanks a lot, and we'll see you soon, I'm sure.